Gator hood. It'll work on any ATV plastic, this repair, but you know, this thing, it had a hard life and then it had a harder life when it hit a tree, so it's got some damage. Broke the plastic down here around one of the screw holes, typical. Broke out up here on top. Right there is a place where a bolt goes through. I've got that piece. And there's some other small cracks. One over here that's already been repaired. So to do this, we're going to use some 1/4 inch hardware cloth to embed into the plastic to give it some strength. Just like you do with fiberglass or graphite or anything like that. The plastic's cracked. You could go on the backside and melt it, but it's going to want to re-crack on there. If we put some reinforcement in there, it'll bind it together between the two sides and keep it from cracking again. The only other things you really need is something to cut the wire with. So I use some aviation shears. A screwdriver, because as you heat the plastic, you need to push the mesh down into the plastic. And some other small cutters and things. You also need a source of heat. I'm using an electric heat gun. It works really well. Much easier than trying to use a flame. These repairs are structural. They'll make it so you can bolt it back on. It'll keep the mud out of your face. They're not the most beautiful. You'll still be able to tell where the crack is. By far the hardest part of this is getting all these pieces to line up where you want them and pull it together so that it's in close to the original shape. So here's what I generally do. This has a nice flat surface, so I'm going to clamp this piece of wood on here. So that's bridging the clamp, the crack. Then I'm going to take a smaller clamp and just put it on here to hold these two on the same plane. Not too tight, just loosely. Then I'm going to put a clamp over here on the plastic. Okay, so now I can take another larger clamp and go between these two and pull this together. And now I've got it pretty much into the right shape. Looks like I have to put a little pressure underneath to close it a little more. But I'll play with it a little bit until I get it nice and tight, and then I'll start adding in the mesh. And because this has this corrugated surface down here, I'm going to have to use a lot of small pieces. So as you can see, I've redone how this was all clamped, and I'm going to work from back here. I've got this joint to tighten up pretty good, and then once this is done, I'll redo it and bring this down flat and finish it. So we'll start back here. So I've cut some pieces off of the hardware cloth. This one will go up here on top. I've got some more down here and here, and then I cut some smaller ones to go in here where there's not enough room. It's much easier to work with small pieces than large ones. Large ones you end up overheating the area and melting it too much, and you'll see it on the front side. And also it's hard to get them to lay flat, so one corner's up and one corner's down. It's a big pain. So to cut them, it's pretty easy. Just take some of this and the shears and just cut. And there's another one ready to go. Usually take a look and make sure they're fairly flat, kind of flatten them out. And then there's wires on top and there's wires on bottom, depending on what you're trying to repair. I put these down because I want them deeper in the plastic so that it holds it together better. But it doesn't really matter, I guess, if you get it deep enough. So I'll put the first one in here. Push it down until Wires embed in the plastic. That'll do. Now I'm going to move over and do something down here. Let that area cool some. So I'll come down here and put this one in. Okay, so I've repaired those, so that'll hold together. It's cooled down to where at least you can touch it. So I'm going to take all these clamps off and then we'll redo it to hold all these pieces in place, somewhere near their appropriate position. Move this clamp back so it won't be in the way. Close that crack up a little bit. Clamp it down. Good. We'll bring this guy down. All right, right here there's a part where something fractured and is missing. So I just took a piece of scrap. I'm just going to lay it in there. It'll just help give some more glue to get these two surfaces together. Okay, so that's repairs done. So you can see it's all nice and tight. You can tell it was there and that it's been damaged, but structurally it's sound now. Luckily these screw holes are underneath the machine. You don't really see them once the bolts and the washers are on them. And we have a nice strong repair, and we can reuse those holes to hold it in place now. Okay, so just to show you how much you can repair, this fender was in multiple pieces, and I put it all back together so it's usable. You can just see all the large crack repair, the fractures. There's over 10 repairs and cracks. Up here it was fractured around these holes. You get an idea of just what you can repair, which is basically anything you have all the pieces for. So here's the finished result. As you can see, down here is where that big damage was. You can still see something happen there, but it's all tight. It's able to bolt on everywhere, and it fits appropriately on the machine.